Hey guys, so we got our login page working in the last video. We were able to send an email and password and get back a JWT token. And in this video what we're going to do is a couple things. The first is refactor some code. It's always a good idea when you're creating a project to go back and fix some things when you realize how they're going to work a little differently than you might think, and clean up your code so it's easy and it scales well. And then we're also going to handle errors when I put a bad email and a bad password. So let's get started. The first thing I want to fix is my ESLint. So you may have noticed in your code and in mine where I have an error here that says parsing error, and these are real errors, right? I've been kind of ignoring them thus far, but it's a good idea to go ahead and cover these. So I'd like to thank some of the people that have commented on how to fix this and some of the other errors I'm about to talk about. So to fix this guy, what we need to do is use a different parser. So on our ESLint file here, we're using, this is our setting. We can actually specify a different parser, and the parser we want to use is Babel ESLint. And then we also want to set the environment, and we're going to use the browser environment. And now because we're using the Babel ESLint parser, we need to go ahead and install that. So I'm going to say yarn add dev Babel ESLint, and then I'm going to give this guy a save, and then we should see this error go away and see basically our ESLint will work with a higher accuracy now. So I'm going to go ahead and give that a save, and now we can see the errors are in different places. So here's some errors I'm getting. We're just going to go file by file real quick and fix these errors. So the first is I'm missing prop types. Now prop types are good to add, but personally I don't like spending the time to create them, so I like to just ignore this rule. So I'm going to come over here, and this is a rule I'm going to get rid of. Oops. Come back over here. I didn't copy it. Up. The little Visual Studio Code window always closes on me. Okay. So we just turned off this rule, and now we don't see it anymore, and we don't have to worry about that. Here it looks like we just need to add curly brace, and when I save, Prettier should fix a lot of these problems, and we notice how it brings it down a new line, and we don't see any other errors in this file. Now I'm going to head over to login. Same problem here, we just need to add a parentheses around here, and that's good. Our home looks like it's good here. Index is good. Login register we just fixed. Our index here is good. And then register service worker. This has a lot of problems. What I recommend for this is just disabling it, because we didn't actually write this code. So we saved this. There's a couple values here that have no idea where they're coming from. So I'm going to just say ESLint disable, because I don't really want to worry about it. I don't want to see the errors. Now if you want to, what you can do is to your package.json you can add a linting script. So I can go over here and say lint, and say lint source. So now what I can do is I can say yarn run lint, and what this will do is it'll lint the code. Lint command not found. Oops. ESLint. And so we can see any of the errors we have in our source code. So we have two problems, and our only problems are console log statements, so I'm not going to worry about them. We're in a good place with this now. But you can run it from the command line, or you can just do it as you're coding, fix them, kind of like how I was doing. Okay. So that error is all good. The next thing I want to go over is just not exactly a problem, but a nice little optimization we can make on the server. So you guys noticed last time when we were doing the login, or not the login, this is the register page, this register mutation, we had to check the password up front. And the reason for that was we're actually going to we couldn't just add validation to our password. because our password we're storing is the hash, so it wouldn't work. But there's a way to get around this. So over here, SQLize has hooks that can run. So really we want to run after validation, and we want to just set the password to a hash password, or do it after create or before create, either one. Well, actually we want to do it before create, right? Because we want it to come in before we actually create the object. But I'm going to try this after validate and see how that works. So here I'm going to add this to my object, and yeah, paste it in there. So here we don't have a before validate, just an after validate that we're going to use. And this is going to be user, and we're just going to set user.password, and we're going to hash it. And right here we are going to make this an async function, because we need to await the response. And we're just going to copy what we did over here. So copy, paste, and I'm going to import bcrypt up here. Import bcrypt from bcrypt, and I misspelled it. There we are. And this is going to be user.password. We're getting a little ESLint warning because it doesn't want us to reassign it. They're reassigning it, and there's an example here. I'm not sure if they can do a return value. They're doing it here as well. Actually, I think I'm just going to use the before hook, because we want to just return the object like this. Well, we're setting the password here as well. I'm guessing the return value is going to be the user. We're going to have to do a little test here. I'm just going to say return ... user, and then password is going to be equal to hashed password. And we're going to say const hashed password. There we go. So we'll hash it, and then we'll add it here. So now in our user over here, I don't have to hash it. And I don't have to, I can just literally plug in my args here. You can call this args. And we don't have to do this little check right here. So I'm going to move that error, or not that error, but this validation here. So now I'm going to say type string, and I'm going to say validate, add it in here, and I'm going to just copy the length one. And we said, what did we say? We want 5 and 100. And we can steal our message. The password needs between 5 and 100 characters long. So the password, 5 and 100 characters long. So now that we have that there, we can get rid of this. So clean up our code a little bit, and we don't have to write as much. And oh, looks like we forgot to pass in the secret as well. This is something I didn't notice actually until right now. Oops, let's get rid of this. So we are using try login, and we are passing secret2 as undefined. So that's a pretty bad error actually. So secret2, which we're grabbing here, we're passing into our refresh secret. So it's a good thing we fixed that right there. It would still work because it would just use undefined as the secret. But cool. So that's fixed. Now let's give this a whirl and see if this works when creating a user, if this validation works. So I'm going to come over here just to graphical, and I'm going to call a mutation create user, which is a register, and username, email, and a password. And I want to see if it's okay and what errors we get. So ID or path and message, and then we're going to just check the database and make sure if this works. Okay, so this looks like it worked okay. We're going to check the database and make sure it actually hashed correctly. So I'm going to connect to Slack and select all from users, and it did not work at all because password is not hashed. So I'm going to guess, come back up here. Where did we set? Oh, we put it right here. I'm guessing we have to actually mutate this object. So I'm going to say user.password is equal to hash password. And we don't have to worry about a return state. Oops. I'm just going to comment this out for now. Now if this works, this tells us we have to mutate this, so we can just ignore this error. So I'm going to create another guy. Password 2 worked okay. Let's check our database. We notice this gets hashed correctly. So this is the correct way to do it. And I'm just going to say ESLint disable next line. I don't know if we space or not. We can also specify which one we want. So we want the no param reassign. We're just going to ignore that. So we're going to ignore that ESLint rule because we need to do it this way for how SQLize works. Alright, and I just want to make sure our password hook works, or our validation works. So if I did it too short of a password, we still get an error there. So now in my front end here, I just want to make sure it also works, which it should automatically work for us. So our password's too short. Here's our email. Here's our guy right there. Invalid email. Let's do a .com, I suppose. So a good password, we need to have it a good length, and bam, now it works. Alright, so that was the second problem we fixed. There's one other thing on refactor, and that's how I did this form here. So with semantic UI, there are form fields that I didn't realize, so that just makes it space really nicely. So let's use those. So this is going to change our login and our register. So all we're going to do is import form here, and then we're going to wrap this whole thing in a form. And then we wrap each input with a form field. And it just spaces it real nicely. So I'm going to say form.field, and I'm going to copy that. We're going to paste it. We're going to paste it, close, paste it here, close it off. And I don't think we have to do it for the button, but I'll double check. Nope, they don't put it around the button. So we save that, and we can take a look how it looks here. I'm expecting, yep, we get some nice spacing in our form now. And I'm going to just do the same thing for our login as well. So login, form, and form. Form.field. And let's look at that. And cool, looks nice. So next, let's handle the errors. So kind of how we have it here. And there's also one other thing I wanted to actually refactor real quick as well. I forgot about that. So notice how I'm doing a triple Boolean check here to see if there's any errors. But we're actually already doing that up here and pushing it onto a list. So we can check if there's any errors in this error list, which is a faster check. So errors list.length. So if the length is not 0, then we display the message, otherwise we display null. So just to show this does work, we can come back over here to the register, hit submit, and errors, did I spell it wrong? No, I spelled it right. Okay, I was expecting this to work. Errors list.length. we show the message. Otherwise, we don't. So stuff is red here. I wonder if I got an error in the console. Nope. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to console log this, console.log error list, to see what the length of it is. I would have expected this to have a length of 3 and therefore evaluate to true and show the first Boolean expression. And sure enough, we get 3 errors. I can say not equal to 0 to be explicit. And I'm on the register form. I have no idea why this is rendering null. Or maybe it's because maybe it's the form. Maybe it's because it's in a form now. I'm gonna take it out. It might not be actually that it's my. Yeah. Okay. So it's actually just form field. So that was the problem. Wasn't with this Boolean check here. I was gonna say I was very surprised that the Boolean check resulted to false or not true. And I'm gonna refresh this, hit submit, we still see it. Now you notice these look a little faded here, and the reason for that is we just need to add error onto the form field itself. So now I believe it should, we're gonna test it on the password. See how the password's all red? We just need to move the error onto the form field itself. So add that there. And also for our guy here. Alright, let's give that a save. And now when we submit, we should see triple red here. And we do, we see our message, perfect. So that's looking nice. Now we're going to do the same thing on our login page. So the way we did it is got the response and just looped over the errors. So I'm going to copy this and we're going to head over to our login. So in our submit here, we're already checking. We also want to get the errors object from this guy. So we can delete this. So if we're okay, we're going to store this in token and refresh token, and then we're going to redirect to the home page. Otherwise, we'll say there is some kind of error that occurred. So let's bring this to the next line, space this out. Okay. So there's some kind of error occurred, so we're going to loop through the errors. We're going to put the error into an error object. And then instead of setting this dot state to error, I'm just going to add a errors, which is just an object of errors that we have. And I'm going to say this dot errors is equal to error. And maybe we have to do an object spread so it's not copying it. I'm actually not quite sure, but let's see if this assignment does work. So what we can do is then down here we can say form field error is equal to this dot errors dot email, right? Now instead of putting it here, we already have this getting deconstructed, so we can say errors email password. So error is equal to email. Ooh, email here, so really we should call this email error. So I'm gonna do that. So this will be email error and password error. And it was actually already called email error and password error. I'll show you guys. Oh, this also has two things, right? I forgot how we were doing this before. Now I remember. So error is going to have two things. It's going to be like called email error, and it's going to have a message in it. So email error we have to check. So really email error is an object of its own. Well, no, it's not. email error, yep, is a string. So we're going to convert that to a Boolean, and we need to convert it down to a Boolean here. So error, password error. Alright. And let's not console log the response twice because I'm already doing it here. And then just like we were doing it below, let's create a errors list. But actually we don't even need to make an errors list because we can check if there's an error. Well, no, we should still just create an errors list with the email and password error. So I'm going to copy this. And we don't have a username, so we can ignore that. And then we're going to copy this message because it's going to be the same thing. And we're going to put it below our form. And we're going to import message from semantic UI. Okay, so now when we submit, we're going to loop through each error. We're going to put it in the error object, calling it email error or password error. And we're grabbing the message and storing that too. And then we're setting this.errors object to the error. So now we're storing it in there. So when we expand and get the errors here, we should actually get a string instead of undefined. And so we add it to our object, and then here we check whether the errors exist to show a red field or not. And then down here we're checking the length if there's any errors, and we're showing the errors down below. So if I hit submit, we should see a problem. We get the wrong email. So I put a blank email. So this looks like it worked correctly. Now I'm going to try putting a correct email, which I actually don't remember what the correct email is. So I'm going to come open this in our tab. Here's the list of all our emails here. So let's try bob@gmail.com. Oops. So now we get a wrong password. Excellent. And I actually don't even remember the password for this guy, so let's use this thing that we created right here. And okay, let's just create a new one real quick. So that username needs to be unique. Alright, so we create this random user role, and I'm going to copy the email. And so if I hit submit, we get wrong password, good. And now I pass in the password. Looks like it works good, and if we come over here, we see the token is still there. So everything works nicely. So I think we are good for our login page right now. We are setting the tokens, which we're going to use, and we are covering all our bases with any kind of error that happens. We're displaying it to the user so they know what's going on. Now, like I said in the other video, you don't have to tell them that they put a wrong email. You could just say there was an invalid submission. But either way works, whatever you prefer. Kind of how much information you want to tell your user about what they did wrong. Okay, so what I'm thinking in the next video is we can start actually getting to the fun stuff of Slack, and start building out some of the features. And then once we start adding the features, creating teams, being able to chat, that sort of thing, we're going to come back to authentication and these tokens. Because whenever we make a request to create a team, to create a channel, any of that, we're going to be passing these tokens to our server to authenticate. So that's coming up in the future. Thanks for watching, guys, and thank you to everyone who has commented and seen some improvement that we can make on the project. And I encourage you, if you see anything you think that can be improved, please leave a comment below. I'd love to fix this guy up, refactor some code, and make it better. And this code will be up on GitHub. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next video.